So, as far as being thankful, I am so thankful that somebody with a clue brought the camera because I didn't. But, on to today's sermon topic. When will these things be? And sometimes we get some cool ideas of what the future will be like and what we're looking for. We have these high expectations, and actually this isn't the future, this is a real life photo. I clipped off the part where you could see the crowd of people down at the bottom. But we have expectations, and we have expectations based on how we're looking at things. And just before the passage that I read, we have in Luke, starting with verse 1, and he looked up and saw the rich putting their gifts into the treasury. And he saw also a certain poor widow putting in 2 mites. So he said, "Truly, I say to you that this poor widow has put in more than all. For all these out of their abundance have put in offerings for God, but she out of her poverty put in all the livelihood that she had." And the question is, where were they looking? Jesus is the one that's making this comment. They're at the temple. They can see the giving that is taking place. But there's a reason why I asked where were they looking, because in the very next verses, then some spoke of the temple, how it was adorned with beautiful stones and donations. And he said, "These things which you see, the days will come in which not one stone shall be left upon another that shall not be thrown down." And all right, you got to understand how big some of these stones are. You know how big a semi-tractor trailer's back end is? That's the size of some of the stones in the foundation. That huge thing, and then they're building on top of that with the pillars and so forth. That's a pretty impressive sized stone to be tearing down. But what were they looking at? There's a problem. There was the money, but there was the woman who was giving. There was the temple and all of its grandeur, which didn't really measure up to the way it had been before their captivity, because now it was copper instead of gold that was inside for most of it. But focusing on the temple and missing the God within was really missing the point. Keep that in mind, because so they asked him, saying, "Teacher, but when will these things be, and what sign will there be when these things are about to take place?" What are they thinking about? He told them about destruction. But what else is going on? And remember the 2 different ways to be looking at what has already taken place. There's the money, there's the giver. There's the grandeur and the beauty, there's God. You might see a bunch of grubby faces. You might see the trash on the ground behind them. You might recognize children in need. Luke 21:8, and he said, "But take heed that you not be deceived, for many will come in my name, saying, 'I am he,' and the time has drawn near. Therefore, do not go after them." Where does Jesus start? It's all going to be destroyed. Take heed. He's not talking about physically how the temple is coming down. Or is he? How was the temple already coming down? It was coming down spiritually. It was coming down because those who professed to be following God at that time were the ones fighting against Jesus. We're the ones fighting against the miracles that they saw. Because more important to them than the God within was the power they held themselves. and the position that they had, what were they looking at? Where does Jesus start it off? Take heed. Watch closely. Watch and know. Don't be deceived. Make sure you're paying attention to what's there in front of you to be seen. He continues, but when you hear of wars and commotions, and don't forget, when you hear of, not when you see, not when you experience, when you hear of wars and commotions, do not be terrified, for these things must come to pass first, but the end will not come immediately. Then he said to them, nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be great earthquakes in various places and famines and pestilences, and there will be fearful sights and great signs from heaven. But remember, what did Jesus tell them to be prepared for? Those who would come to deceive. Not worry about when it all comes crashing down. Worry about the war. Worry about the other physical problems you're going to hear about. Who here can stop the bomb that falls? My hand isn't really up here. That was an example. We can't. How much is worrying about it gonna change it when it happens? It's not. But what can we control? How we choose to act and how we choose to respond. Take heed that you are not deceived. And the other part was when you hear of it. But before all these things, they will lay their hands on you before you've even heard about the nasty coming. They will lay hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and prisons. You'll be brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. But it will turn out for you as an occasion for testimony. He's not denying the real is coming. It is. Destruction is going to come. They're going to level that place. He's the one that just told them it's getting leveled. Are you prepared? We talked this morning in the men's class about doubt. And the example we had from Matthew, where it talks about narrow and wide are the paths. Narrow is the one that leads to eternal life. Broad is the one that a lot of people are going to go cruising down because that's the easy path to take. There's a choice. There's a decision to seek God on God's terms. That's the narrow one. There's the decision to do whatever I feel like because you know what? The God I have decided in my mind is like this. And I can worship that God however I feel like that makes me feel good. And if we were talking about Vicky's my wife, y'all know that. There's what makes me happy, and there's what makes Vicky happy. Vicky likes chocolate. I prefer a huge cut of steak. Vicky likes pasta. I can't stand it. I'd rather have mashed potatoes. There are a lot of big dietary differences between Vicky and myself. If I do the things that please me, trying to please Vicky, how far am I getting? I'm not. Why? Because there's what Vicky wants and there's what I want. If I want to be pleasing to Vicky, guess where I'd take her? I'd take her out to an Italian restaurant. Why? Because she likes that kind of stuff. What will I get? I'll get a pizza and I'll get a salad and I'll make myself happy. But if I'm trying to be pleasing to Vicky, then I'm going to do the things Vicky wants to do. If we're trying to be pleasing to God, shouldn't we be doing the same for God? Instead of just picking out of a hat, oh, I think it would be really cool to go out and be one with nature. And by me being one with nature, therefore, I'm not dissing nature, because I'm the guy that will walk up Cardiac Hill at the university and be saying, thank you, God, in the downpour. Thank you, God, that I can get up this hill. Thank you, God, that the rain comes down, because that rain is going to cause things to grow. And as much as I might be getting soaking wet right now and my work clothes are getting drenched and I don't have spare in the office, I've got clothes on my back. I've got spare clothes at home. I've got the ability to go up this hill on my own 2 feet, even though it's steep and nasty. I've got a job waiting for me when I get up to the top. Thank you, Lord. Because as messy as I might get going up in the rain, I'm still majorly blessed. Because where am I looking? I'm looking at God and I'm saying, thank you. I'm recognizing that the rain, it's going to pass. When there's wars, they're going to pass. When there are trials, they're going to pass. What's going to stay constant? God is. We need to recognize truth is truth always. What do we need to work from? Always. God's truth. Do not be deceived. Why? Because there are those who are going to come and give a different answer. It might be an answer that can make you feel good, but what's the real good? The real good is God's answer. Are you prepared? Because there was the question, when will these things be? Titus was written around 66 AD. Jewish-Roman War began late 65 AD. So when Titus is written, that reel had already begun. They were not just hearing about the war was on. Titus 2, beginning with verse 1. But as for you, speak the things which are proper for sound doctrine, that the older men be sober, reverent, temperate, sound in faith, in love, in patience, dodge the bomb. There is no dodge the bomb there. Avoid the falling structures. There's no avoid the falling structures. Learn how to run away real fast. There's not that either. When it's all going haywire, what's most important? Be the people you're called to be. More so than how do you get away? Because guess what? What did Jesus tell them? It's coming down. What does 2/3 of Jerusalem do before 66 AD? They leave. He told them, they listened, they obeyed. How did they prepare? They prepared by believing what Jesus told them. And because they believed, they were able to rightly act. When Paul is writing to Titus, what's he telling them? Be prepared. How? By doing what you know is right. To the old men, but it's not just to the old men. The older women likewise, that they be reverent in behavior, not slanderers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things, that they admonish the young women to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, homemakers, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of God may not be blasphemed. What's he saying about Rome here? Nothing. What's he saying about the wars and ceteras? Nothing. What's he putting forth as being important while all this is going on? Be the people you're called to be in God. Jumping a bit farther down in that passage, verse 11, for the grace of God that brings salvation has appeared to all men, teaching us that denying ungodliness and worldly lust, we should live soberly, righteously, and godly in the present age. When all this is happening, how do you live? You live in a way that if it all ended tomorrow, would you regret what you did the day before? No. Why? Because you lived in a way you knew was pleasing to God, that if it's all over, you can look back and say, I did, what I knew to do that was right. I don't have the regret. Because when do we have that regret? Is it only when there's been a war going on and we did something we wish we hadn't done? No. We can have that regret today when the standard we were living by wasn't God's. Is it easier to practice the right living now or when the bombs are falling? It's easier to practice it now, or it should be. When we're not facing the conflict, the time to practice the good, to build up the muscle for choosing to do right, is when it's easier. Because when it's harder, you're not going to do what you haven't practiced and prepared for. Continuing looking for the blessed hope and glorious appearing of our great God and Savior Jesus Christ, who gave himself for us that he might redeem us from every lawless deed and purify for himself his own special people, zealous for good works. Speak these things, exhort and rebuke with all authority. Excuse me. Let no one despise you. If you don't follow the biblical example when it's easy, you're not preparing yourself for when it's hard. In karate, you do what are called defense sets. Defense set is when you practice against somebody who's doing a practiced attack. And I was in a defense set one time that went really, really wrong. The guy that I was practicing with was Special Forces. He used to joke, what are you going to do? Get your wife to beat me up? Because Vicky's a brown belt. And me, I was white, yellow, and I'd make it up to orange, and I'd eventually quit, and then I'd start karate over a couple of years, 10 years or so later, and I'd get up to about orange, and I'd quit. He's military, Special Forces. When he'd grab, he knew you don't grab with your thumb because that's a weak point. You grab like this, and when he'd grab, he'd leave bruises on me. And he saw it one time, he goes, oh no, is Vicky gonna beat me up because I bruised you? And I was like, no, Vicky's not gonna beat you up. But we're doing a defense set. And I made the mistake. It was supposed to be a punch to the face. As far as being the aggressor, I was punching to his chest. He was trying to throw the block that would save his face. But you can't get deep enough, quick enough with that block when it's a punch to the chest. So I'd throw the punch and I'd lightly tag him. And he goes, oh man, I gotta do this better. And he'd try harder, but I was throwing the wrong punch for what we were practicing. And I'd lightly tag him. No man, hit me hard. If I'm not gonna do it right, I deserve to be hit. And he's going on. We have the sensei come over and he's watching. And it hits me as I start the next round of defense set. Oh, I've been throwing the wrong punch. This time I throw the right punch. I'm aiming at his face. He blocks and he comes in with a roundhouse because he was so adrenalined up. He was no longer thinking defense set. He was thinking, what comes next? What comes next as I take this guy out? He is full power, full speed, halfway through that swing when he realizes what he's about to do. I realized as soon as the arm went back like this, what was about to be coming my way. When he blocked, he threw me completely into a defenseless position, which was the point of that defense set. You don't block so they can retaliate. You block so they have nothing to come at you with. I had nothing to come back at him with to defend myself. If I didn't have an answer already in mind that was in my best interest, I was possibly going to have a broken jaw. Because when he came down on me, he came down full force. He couldn't slow down. Mentally, I was already prepared for this kind of situation. I knew when you've got no hope in this kind of situation, you can be like the sheet of glass, or you can be like the blanket. When you throw the stone at the sheet of glass, what happens? It shatters because it's brittle, it's resisting. When you throw the stone at the blanket, what happens? Does the blanket not get hit? No, the blanket gets hit. It doesn't get destroyed. Why? Because the blanket's able to give. When I saw that punch coming, I knew two things. One, drop all your weight, because if you're holding yourself up, you're already resisting. And two, just go limp. I dropped all my weight, so I was already going in the direction his fist was coming. It hurt, but it wasn't a broken jaw. I was prepared as I could be to do what was necessary. Did it stop the bad? No. He was already too far gone, even when he himself recognized it. But by being prepared, I could respond in the rightest way possible. And that was probably the difference between either being knocked out or having a broken jaw. We don't always realize how right can be when we're facing the bad. Hindsight's 20/20. It's when we can look back and we realize, you know what? It might have been hard, but choosing to accept what was coming and working through it in the rightest way possible was my best choice. We're going to see nasty in this life. And sometimes that nasty is going to feel and look awfully hopeless. If you go to South America right now and go on one of those mission trips, you want to see hopeless? Go to the junkyard. You will see kids like this picking through, trying to find what they can sell. Whether that be some kind of metal that's going to get recycled like aluminum, or something they think they could actually sell to a tourist. Because what they sell is what they're going to eat with. For them, yeah, it looks hopeless. The opportunity to be the difference is when we choose to act on what we know and do what's right regardless. We can't focus on the hopelessness and just say, oh, I can't do anything. That's not true. You could say, I couldn't do anything. No, I could. I could choose to do with what little I had. And given the choice between being hit and breaking your jaw, I'm so going with the being hit. Recognizing that when we face trials and tribulations, guess what? They're not just going to magically disappear 9 times out of 10. But how we choose to face is what we are faced with the following day. When we choose to do what may feel uncomfortable, but what we know is right, that's when we can look back on it and say, yeah, that was hard, but I got through it by the grace of God. Excuse me. And what are we seeing right now on the news? I think we're now at 6th week running with a mass shooting of some form. Another Walmart shooting this time again? It's just going and going and going. What do we have halfway around the world? We got a war that is still going on. Why are we not doing something? Because we're afraid that if we do something, it's going to escalate that war to here. Oops, wrong button. There we go. We need to think about Titus 2. Because it wasn't when you're hearing about it, it was when it was right there for them. When it was right there for them, what was Paul doing? Be the people you're called to be. It is your best opportunity to be able to face yourself the next day. Best opportunity you have for eternity. And where we started this all off was in Luke 21. Therefore, settle it in your hearts not to meditate beforehand on what you will answer, for I will give you a mouth and wisdom which all your adversaries will not be able to contradict and resist. And we can look at this two ways. You can look at it from the miraculous side and say, oh, he's going to give special knowledge, special ability. Or we can look at it from the standpoint of what have you practiced and what are you prepared for? If you've practiced the right and practiced the right and practiced the right, when push comes to shove, what will you do? If it is what you have become, then when the cards are down and it feels hopeless, if that has been your active choice again and again and again, it'll be your response when it really counts. But what if it's tongue-tied, what's the response if I've cheated it all along? If I've faked it all along? If I've done the good because it makes me feel good, but I'm not doing the good because of God, because I don't really have that conviction? Then when the time comes, you're not going to do the good. It's about actively choosing for God. It's about being prepared. And when do we prepare? If you're preparing for the hurricane when it's already coming at you, you're preparing too late, and we get that in Florida. The time to prepare for the hurricane is before we hear about it on the Weather Channel. The time to have the stock of water is not the day before, because you go into Walmart or wherever and the water's cleared out. We get it when it's a hurricane. Do we get it when it's the spiritual hurricanes of our lives? Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Not I can do all things through Christ because Christ is going to make it right for me. Who strengthens me? Whose muscle? Mine. Why is it strengthened? Because I've put into practice, I've exercised, I've worked, I've done. I've prepared myself to do. I can do all through. I'm not saying it's all my power, all my ability. But if I don't do what I am called to do, if I don't become by the practice of God's word, I'm not going to stand. We're going to face trials and tribulations in life. Some of them are going to knock us on our can. Whether or not we're able to get up is dependent upon what kind of people we've prepared ourselves to be. I know what knocked me down the hardest. I didn't know how I was breathing when Alexis passed. I can tell you what I was saying that night, even before she had passed. I was saying, thank you, God. Thank you for the blessing of 5 years, 6 months, and a day. I wasn't getting mad at God because I hadn't prepared myself to be angry with him. Long before Alexis passed, I'd already told myself, and told myself, and told myself, life is a blessing from God. Every day that I have that blessing is like being given another $1,000. If I get $1,000 for 5 years, 6 months, and 1 day, who am I to turn on God on the day after and say, why'd you stop? I get $1,000 every day for 5 years, 6 months, and 1 day. Thank you, Lord. That wasn't easy. I wasn't extremely happy when I was saying it. I was shredded. I was able to say it because of what I'd done to prepare myself for any situation that came along like that. We either seek to grow in God, recognizing his blessings, even when it hurts. Because if we don't build up our spiritual strength and integrity, when the wars actually come, when the spiritual actually comes against us, we're going down. Jesus faced Calvary. He went to Calvary to make a difference for each and every one of us. We face the choice to either choose for him, to accept what he's offered, or to reject it. Too many people will put it off and put it off and put it off. Alexis showed me you're not always given tomorrow. Have the opportunity to choose to take Christ on in baptism or to reject. If you need to take him on in baptism or you need the prayers of the church, you're welcome to come as we stand and sing.